Good afternoon. Welcome to the first meeting of the Senate Transportation Committee following crossover. Welcome, former colleagues. If you would take the roll, please, that'd be great.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We are going to start with the bills that need to be re-referred to other committees, and the patrons do not need to be here. HB 213, Delegate Watt's bill, needs to be re-referred to Agriculture. It is where the cognate to that bill, SB 453, was heard. Secondly, do we need a motion for each one? Okay.
So moved, Madam Chair.
All righty. Thank you. Do we have to have a vote? All righty. Call the roll. All righty.
Ayes 9, no 0.
All righty. 9-0, moving Delegate Watts over to Agriculture. The second bill that needs to be re-referred is HB 385, Delegate Simons, to Commerce and Labor. This is where SB 143 was heard. And do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Clerk, call the roll.
Ayes 9, no 0.
Thank you very much. 9-0. Delegate Simon's bill will be moved to Commerce and Labor. Secondly, in the next block, I'd like to put a number of bills in the block together. They were identical and unanimously voted out of the Senate. Their cognates were. So that would be HB 15, Delegate McNamara, HB 92 by Delegate Waxman, HB 191, Delegate Austin, HB 844, Delegate Austin, HB 1106, Delegate Wyatt, HB 1109, Delegate Wyatt, and HB 1409, Delegate Reed. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second. All righty. We'll get to that. If we could have a vote on passage of those unanimous and identical bills, if the clerk could call the roll.
Ayes 9, no 0.
All righty. All of those bills report 9-0, and we'll go to the Senate floor. Can you talk to them? Yeah, or we can get paper. Okay, next, another one that went out unanimously but needs to go to Finance first is HB 840, Delegate Austin. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second. And if the clerk would call the roll to refer this to pass this, report this out, and send it to Finance.
Ayes 9, no 0.
All righty. Are we okay? Okay. Next, HB 23234 by Delegate Ward has the cognate to Senator Williams-Graves' bill. My understanding is that Ward is comfortable with us conforming to Senator Williams-Graves' SB 516, and I so moved. Have a second.
Second.
All righty. If all could call for a roll call vote for an amendment? Second. Okay. All in favor of the amendment conforming her bill?
Aye.
Aye. All righty. And move that it reports. Do you have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Clerk, call the roll.
Ayes 8, noes 4.
Thank you very much. The next bill is HB 74. Delegate Reed, I understand you have an amendment. Senator Perry carried the cognate. Would you like to tell us what the amendment is? And
yes, Madam.
This is the gravel road bill, correct?
I'm sorry?
This is the gravel road?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I believe that council has the amendment and the amendment has been worked on with the stakeholders, including VDOT, and I believe that this same amendment is going to be applied to Senator Perry's bill when it comes over to the House, so this will put them in the same status.
Great. Clerk would like to read the amendment.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the amendment is posted online, and Madam Chair, the amendment is posted online, and it is on line 29 engrossed after the removed word standards inserts improvements pursuant to this section shall be designed and implemented utilizing project standards that conform to then existing federal and state requirements and standards, and if no such standards exist, that conform to standards is mutually agreed upon by the department and the locality.
Move the amendment, Madam Chair.
All righty, and a second?
Second.
All righty, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Signify by aye. Any opposed? The bill stands in front of us. Do I have a motion to,
Move and report as amended.
thank you, in a second? Thank you. If the clerk could open the roll.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good to see you. Now we are to the bills that do not have Senate versions. These bills, we will start in the order that I have them in front of me. Delegate Carr has HB 1080. And then I believe you also have 1071, if you'd like to do both of those.
Yes,
that's fine.
thank you. Thank you very much. Would you like me to do 1071 first, Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Go
All
ahead.
right, thank you. 1071 is a clarification to legislation acted in the 2021 session, which gave localities the authority to lower their speed limits to 15 miles an hour. Some localities have not been able to implement the statute since it was unclear if another section of the code empowered VDOT to deny such requests from localities. Now, HB 1071 clarifies this section of the code to reinforce the original legislative intent.
Thank you. Is there discussion on the motion, on the bill? Senator Rome,
Thank
excuse
you,
me.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, question for the patron, just to clarify that this is permissive and it is not prescriptive for
That's
localities.
correct. Very permissive.
Thank you. Do you have anyone with you who wishes to speak on the bill?
I think there are some people that can speak.
Okay, we're just going to keep it very, very tight
We don't
here.
need to. I don't think we need to.
Let's just give 2 minutes total, each side.
Madam Chair, Noel Dominguez with Fairfax County. The county does support this bill. With more people walking and using bicycles, we think this is a tool in the toolbox to protect the citizens of the Commonwealth and of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel.
Madam Chair, James Hutzer, Virginia Association of Counties. We thank the delegate for bringing the bill and we support it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mitchell Smiley with the Virginia Municipal League. We support the bill and appreciate the delegate bringing it forward. Hope you'll vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there members of the audience in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to report, Madam Chair.
Second. If the clerk could call the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
Your bill reports 9-6. Congratulations.
Madam Chair.
And then you wanted to do at 1080?
1080, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. 1080 limits the license suspension period due to a motorist driving on a suspended or revoked license to a maximum of 10 years past the date of conviction of such violation. This is an efficacy bill, and the 10-year limit reflects the periods by which these cases are purged. Sarah Wilson of Drive to Work is here to speak more to the bill, if you'd like. And this bill passed the House 100-0. Thank you.
And again, let's do a total of 2 minutes on each side.
Good afternoon, ma'am. and committee members. This bill is an efficiency bill and a management reputation bill. The courts purge their cases after 10 years. The DMV does not. And if you're a clerk in the court trying to restore a driver's license for a case that's over 10 years old, you can't find it. I had a client get a license from the judge, a restricted license in February, and he could not get his restricted license until July because they can't find the cases to help resolve the issue. So it leaves a very bad taste in the customer's mouth. They're very concerned about what's going on in the state. We don't know what we're doing, and I think it would help the reputation of the state. After 10 years, you lose your 90-day suspension period that's typical in these kinds of cases, efficiency management issues that I think would serve the Commonwealth well.
Thank you very much. Are there members of the audience opposed to this legislation? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to report, Madam Chair.
Second. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you, Delegate
Thank you,
Carr.
Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go back up to Delegate Reed with HB 24. Since you've already done one of your bills, let's just get them both out.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So House Bill 24 takes this particular part of the code where we have approved over the past, I want to say, 27 different opportunities for individuals and organizations to be able to use amber lights as a warning for safety purposes. And what this does is this adds to that particular part of the code, and it's for the sole purposes of hunt organizations within the Piedmont area of Virginia to be able to use amber warning lights for their road whips. And road whips are those individuals who are actually helping to facilitate the hunt and making sure that people who are driving the roads are aware that there are horses and dogs that could be crossing the roads ahead, and to avoid the potential of vehicles striking those horses or animals. And that's the gist of the legislation, Madam Chair.
Okay, are there questions for the patron from members of the committee? Yes, Senator DeStaff.
I read this, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I read this bill last night, but for some reason I can't get LIS to provide this one in PDF or anything else. Oh, never mind, it just started coming up, so.
I was going to say, Madam Chair, I can provide him a highlighted and annotated copy if he would like it.
Thank you.
Maybe,
I
sir.
appreciate that, sir. Are there questions for the delegate here? Do you have anybody here with you, sir, who is in support of your bill? Is there anybody who is opposed to the bill? I will just say that this.
Oh, no, I don't think he's opposed to the bill. He's in favor.
You're in favor of the bill, I'm guessing.
Virginia's 26 mounted fox hunts. Hope you pass this bill. It's about public safety.
Thank you for your time. Yes.
A question for the patron.
Senator Rowe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd ask the patron, why are we doing this for basically where it says on lines 96, 97, it says that it's in good standing with the Masters of Foxhounds Association of North America. Why are we limiting this to like one organization? Why do we not have things that are a little bit more broad in this regard?
So, Madam Chair, that's a really good question because, again, as we were drafting this, because this is something we started on back during the spring, the concern is that if we didn't make it really very specific, that it potentially could be abused by others and maybe it could have unintended consequences. So the intent was to actually construct this so that it would be used in this particular section because, again, as I said earlier, there are 27 other occurrences in this particular part of the code that allows for others, and we wanted to make sure that this was going to be used specifically for hunts and not be misinterpreted for something else.
Madam Chair.
Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree, I guess, at least with the premise of the question from Senator Rome, that I'm not enthusiastic when we say this one organization gets to decide who gets to do this. And as long as you remain a member in good standing of the Masters of the Foxhounds Association in North America, I think that it should be broader rather than letting some organization that we have no control over decide who does and does not get to do this.
Senator Suderline, I would just remark that we've had a number of years of trying to get amber warning lights on a variety of different kinds of vehicles, and it is usually not met with much applause by the police or VDOT. Just a word of caution.
Madam Chair, I would just point out that at least half of our body wasn't here at the start of the last one. So I think that maybe people might be a little more open-minded.
Madam Chair, if I can respond to the senator.
Yes, Delegate Reed.
So you bring up a good point, but I just want to highlight that it doesn't say that that particular group is approving. It says you need to be in good standing. And this is, again, to try to create a standard. And that's the reason why that we've done this the way that we've done it, is to try to address those concerns so that it does not get misinterpreted and it doesn't get abused.
Righty.
Madam Chair.
Senator Suderline.
I would tell the patron, Madam Chair, that yes, if you have to be a member in good standing of one organization, they are deciding who gets to do it and who doesn't.
Senator Suderline, this body operates on motions. Do you have a motion? Or is there a second? All righty, I will. So we have a motion and a second to report the bill. If the clerk would call the roll. You don't have to.
You're right. You got it.
Senator Rome for Pekarsky.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Delegate Reed, your bill reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you,
Ayes
members of the
13,
committee.
no zero, abstentions 1.
Thank you. All righty, if Delegate Cherry is in the room, we'd love to hear your bill, 380 and 1469.
Madam Chair, I'll direct your attention first to House Bill 380.
All righty, please. You have the floor.
House Bill 380 is a special issue plate that would honor the members of the United States Air Force. This bill comes at the request of the Virginia Department of Veterans Services. Currently, all the other branches of service have a specialty plate, and this would bring this, the Air Force, in line with the other branches.
Thank you. Are there?
The number?
Yes, it's a
380.
380.
I'm sorry, do we have the number signed up for the plate? Like normally
There's an exemption in this that was put through the House without the pre-sign-up. That you'll see that exemption on lines 98 and 99 from the pre-sign-up requirement.
Are you able to see it, Delegate? I mean, Senator D-Steph?
said 98, 99?
That's where the exemption is, yes, sir, Senator.
And I'm just going to make a broad statement if I can, Madam Chair. In the past, we've never deviated from the number of either 250 or 400, whatever we've had, whether it was for the mass shooting in Virginia Beach, whether it was for any other item, we've never deviated from this committee. And even if we had to carry it over for a year while they get the signatures, but we've never deviated to date. So I just wanted to put that out there.
If we could have a little bit more discussion before we have a vote, I see if someone who might have some historical perspective from the administration.
Madam Chair, I would say that the Transportation Chair for the House did research, and there had been bills that were similar to this that had done that. I don't know what the background or how many, but typically that sign-up is for kind of specialty plates that don't, this is the United States Air Force, and so being the major branch of the United States military, that was the reason for the exemption on this.
Thank you. And if there's anybody who wanted to speak in support of the bill, I think we need to give the public the option to speak on it before we call for the vote. If there are people who are in support of the bill or who might be able to answer questions to clarify the Senator D. Steph's question.
Hi, Commissioner Lackey, DMV. We did talk about this particular plate in the House. The two things to note, we did pass earlier, this body just passed the Virginia 250 celebration, waiving the minimum fee for that plate. In that particular case, it was because the time frame is so short that wait for 2 years, you kind of be past the 250 celebration. In this case, the narrow exception that we're comfortable with from DMV is that it is the only branch of service that no longer has a plate. All the other branches have them, and it was narrowly focused on just adding the last branch. The last thing I'll say is I do believe that we need to study this issue, and we are going to be doing it this year, the entire plate issuance process. It hasn't been looked at in over a decade. What's the minimum to get in? What's the minimum to stay, and how do we process it? That I think is an important business question, but we would be comfortable with this particular exception.
Thank you very much. So there is a motion and a second on the bill. Is there any opposition to this before? Seeing none, Senator Sturdivant, did you want to say anything else?
Just briefly, Madam Chair, I think this is not the Frisbee Golf Association of Central Virginia. This is United States Air Force, and I thank the patron for bringing the bill, and this is something we need to get across the line to make sure that we cover all of our services. So I would renew the motion to report.
Thank you. This bill has been asked for in finance, so we will need to refer to finance if we do pass it.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Speaker of the bill. I just say, since this is supporting the world's finest Air Force, I ask everyone to support the bill.
Thank you so much. So there is the motion and a second to report and refer to finance. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you. Your bill reports 15-0. You have a second bill that is
That'll be House Bill 1469.
1469. Please tell us about that, sir.
House Bill 1469 is a DMV venue bill. And what we're seeking to fix is when someone submits fraudulent documents to the DMV to obtain a driver's license or some other form of ID, Commonwealth's attorneys were having trouble figuring out should they prosecute where the documents were created or when the documents were submitted. So this simply narrows it down and says that the crime is actually committed for the forged document once it's submitted to DMV. Therefore, DMV at that location in that locality should be the one that prosecutes the crime.
Okay. Anyone here to speak on the bill? Is there?
Rachel Jones, Deputy Secretary of Transportation. We just want to thank the patron for this. It's an important measure to make sure that we can continue to move justice through quickly. Thank you.
Move to report.
Clerk, if you'd call the roll. We didn't ask if there were any opposition, but.
I asked, there was none.
Don't see anybody running to the microphone, so if the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Your bill reports 15-0. Thank you so much, sir. Next is Delegate Wyatt. And Delegate Wyatt, I think you only have one bill in front of us, 1107, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty, tell us about your bill.
1107 allows the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board to settle or establish cost for field representatives that go out and inspect a licensed dealer that may not be there during the posted business hours. There are only 12 inspectors for the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board in 6 regions and over 3,500 dealers that are licensed across the Commonwealth. And this was brought forth by the independent auto dealers to allow the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board to establish time spent, mileage travel for those that are habitual offenders that may not be there when they go to inspect a dealership.
All righty. Did you bring anyone with you who is supporting your bill?
I think they are here in case there are clarifying
I see
questions.
your representative coming up the walkway.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Gonzalo Ida with the Virginia Independent Automobile Dealers Association. We'd like to thank Delegate Wyatt for bringing this bill before the body, and we do support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in opposition to the bill?
Move to report.
All righty. We have a motion and a second to report the bill. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Delegate Wyatt, your bill reports
Thank you,
15-0.
Madam Chair and Senators.
Absolutely. Delegate Krizek, is Delegate Krizek here? Okay, Delegate Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, absolutely.
Madam Chair, I'm here to present HB 446.
All righty, tell us about your bill, sir.
This bill has to deal with abandoned and derelict aircraft that are out on our different public airports across the Commonwealth. Airplanes crash, airplanes wreck, airplanes stop running, and we are not able to currently remove them or charge any fees or anything when different people pass away or we can't find their owners or they stop paying. And like I've said before, these are not vehicles, they're airplanes, so they're tougher to tow away, if you know what I mean. So that's what this intends to do. And it follows the same policy that we use for personal property, tangible personal property, specifically cars. And there's a sort of a mirroring bill going through right now that has to deal with boats that are left and damaged and destroyed. But there's money behind that one because this one I don't think needs any fiscal impact.
Thank you very much. Did you bring anyone? Does anyone have any questions? Senator Rome, excuse me.
All these delegates in front of us, that's how it is. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. All right, Madam Chair, I would ask the patron in this case that if you have an abandoned airplane at this point and under this bill, once there's basically been the decision that, hey, this meets the validity criteria established in line 18 and line 17, what ends up happening to trigger the actual removal of it? So basically, where does it end up going to? How does it end up getting there? And then who's end up responsible for paying for it?
Yeah, how this sort of works is you would apply to the FAA to get the right people's information, and also planes are registered at the state level as well. And so there's provisions for notifying different folks 45 days, multiple times there. And then what would ultimately end up happening is there would be a lien against that aircraft, and it would remain there until you can also get titles converted into the name of the airport or the Bailey, I guess at that point, or Baylor of the property, and they would be able to convert title into their name and resell it after a certain amount of time.
Thank you. Senator Sturdivant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question about the bill.
For the patron.
Delegate, the circumstance I'm thinking of is you've got a regional, smaller airport. You have somebody who's there who refurbishes, redoes airplanes for resale, but there may be times when they're not, quote unquote, actively being refurbished. And so the sort of unintended consequence or concern I'm wondering about is whether we're putting them in a situation where there's going to be a lien on their property. I had a couple of thoughts on how to address that, and I don't know if that's something that you considered or looked at.
Yeah, that's one of the last.
Delegate Williams.
Yeah, that's one
Speak
of the
through the chair,
last.
please.
That's one of the last little things that I'm open to continuing to try to get right for that reason. I had somebody call me today, just spoke to somebody, and they have a relatively larger refurb project that's not in its own large hangar. So they've got planes sitting outside that can't get engines for several years. But I also want to relieve the Senate a little bit and say this is not like a towing bill, and where it's like we got to get it out of here as fast as possible. This is like, airplanes take a long time, and most people know that, and 6 months and somebody will touch it again. But I'm open to trying to fashion something to meet that need, because we changed a little bit of the language on just the derelict. We changed how that's called, abandoned or derelict. So, that we're trying to get that piece right.
Thank you, Delegate Williams. Senator Sturdivant, did you have another question?
Just follow up.
Remember to speak through the chair.
And Madam Chair, my question for the delegate would be whether he would consider it a friendly amendment if we were to add or refurbished in that definition of derelict airplane on line 19.
Right.
And consider striking the word actively so that that can't be misinterpreted.
So you're saying being refurbished rather than actively repaired? Or actively, or being refurbished?
Being repaired or refurbished.
I'm fine with that. I find that friendly. I think that helps.
I would move that amendment.
All right, there's a motion, a second. For the amendment, if you could read the amendment in concept again, how you'd like this to sound exactly?
I think
Yes.
Madam Chair, that would be on line 19, after repaired, it would insert or refurbished, and also on line 19, after being, it would strike the word actively.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, hearing none. Is there any other, is there anyone? Senator Diggs, did you have a question? No. Thank you.
I know that the department is here as well as VDOT if anybody does have any questions.
Thank you very much, Delegate Williams. If anyone would like to speak in support of the bill, please come forward, introduce yourself.
Madam Chairman, John Campbell, Department of Aviation, and we strongly support the bill.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in opposition to this fine bill?
Move to report.
Second.
All righty, there's a motion and a second on the amended vote. If the clerk would like to open the rolls.
Ayes 13, noes 2.
Your bill reports 13-2. Thank you for your time.
Committee.
Next up is Delegate Seabold here. She is. Delegate Seabold, you have HB 282.
Good afternoon.
Please
Madam
tell us
Chair.
about your bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. In 2023 alone, there were over 1,500 injuries at work zones and roadside construction sites here in Virginia, and 13 workers lost their lives. HB 282 protects workers from injuries and fatalities by extending civil penalties to all moving violations that occur within an active work zone, as indicated by appropriately placed signs. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I hope you can support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Do you have anyone with you who is here to support the bill?
Yes, I do.
All right, if you'd bring them up and have them introduce themselves and tell us why they support it. We'll
Great,
have
thank
2
you,
minutes total.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, it's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. My name is Dylan Bishop. I'm here on behalf of the Heavy Construction Contractors Association, and we wholeheartedly support the bill and thank the patron for her dedication to work zone safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Mindy Carlin speaking on behalf of the Northern Virginia Transportation Coalition, which includes chambers of commerce and business groups throughout Northern Virginia, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Scott McGarry, Washington Gas. We very strongly support the bill, and as our safety director says, I'm all for it. The protection of workers needs to be recognized and highlighted at every opportunity. I'm also here in support of this bill at the request of Morgan Whalen with Virginia Natural Gas, who's a bit under the weather, but certainly supports it as we do out of concern for the safety of the public and our utility workers, and hope it'll be a pleasure to recommend reporting the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have 1 minute left for everybody.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Phil Abraham, representing the Old Dominion Highway Contractors, we strongly support the bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Patrina Jones-Robleski. I work for Columbia Gas of Virginia, and I'm also here in partnership with 2 of our contractors that handle the traffic management and flagging. That is Traffic Management Incorporated and W.D. Wright and Company. And we're here because of our flaggers. We are experiencing an uptick in incidents inside our work zones, and as driver behavior goes down, risk goes up, and we're trying to minimize that risk. Thank you very much.
All righty, 15 seconds. It could be that you can just say your name and who you're with and that you support it. That would be adequate, I think.
Madam Chair, Rob Bohannon with Drive Smart Virginia. We support the bill.
Madam Chair, Tom Witt, Virginia Transportation Construction Alliance, and we strongly support this bill.
I am Randy Marcus with CSX Transportation, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Jacob Newton on behalf of Virginia's Electric Cooperatives, and we support this bill. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, John and Morris, Appalachian Power, we also support the bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Brad Copenhaver representing Roanoke Gas, we also support the bill.
All righty. Are there members of the audience who are in opposition to this bill? Hearing none, seeing none. All
Second.
right. There is a motion and a second to pass HB 282. Please open the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Delegate, your bill passes 12-3.
Thank you very much, committee and Madam Chair.
Absolutely. On my list, I have Delegate Austin next, followed by Sickles, followed by Krizik, followed by Sewell. Delegate Austin, our good friend from Southwest Virginia.
Good evening, Madam Chair. I have two bills, HB 845. Would you like to do that one first?
It is your preference, sir.
Okay. Madam Chair, this is a bill that you're a chief co-patron on. It's a great bill. It creates efficiencies for abandoned vehicle acquisition process through the DMV. State code currently requires the DMV to contact jurisdictions directly to obtain lien holder and owner information for abandoned vehicles. Not all are timely or even respond, resulting in a process that often takes up to 6 months to complete. HB 845 addresses this issue by allowing the DMV to use nationally recognized vehicle ownership database to validate the owners and lien holder information. And that's basically what the bill does. It creates efficiencies, and DMV supports the bill.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there members of the audience in support of the bill?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Phil Abraham representing Copart, an online reseller of salvage vehicles. We thank Delegate Austin for bringing this bill. It only applies to out-of-state titled vehicles, and it will not change who gets notified. It will actually allow owners and lien holders to be notified more quickly that their vehicle has been abandoned. So we hope you will support the bill.
Thank you. Questions from the members? Do I have a motion?
Second.
All righty. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Delegate Austin, our bill passes 15-0.
Thank you kindly, Madam Chair.
Let's go to the next 1425.
Yes, ma'am. HB 1425 exempts the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, VPRA, from the statewide Uniform Building Code and Fire Prevention Code Act. The purpose is to give VPRA the clarity it needs as it advances critical rail infrastructure projects, including Long Bridge, Alexander Fourth Track, and Franconia Bypass. The building and fire codes do not contain bridge and tunnel design and construction standards. However, bridge and tunnels do fall under definition structures, according to a former Attorney General's opinion. HB 1425 clarifies that VPRA tunnels and bridges are exempt, relieving DGS of oversight standards meant for occupied buildings. This exemption is already granted to VDOT for similar reasons. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Rome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. Madam Chair, I heard the patron talk about how this will affect a Long Bridge, for example. What issue is Long Bridge currently having with existing code, or I guess the expansion of Long Bridge currently having with existing code, and how will this end up addressing that?
This would require the local fire marshal to review the plans and slow down the process, Senator, of getting the bridge in a construction mode. And local Fire marshals only pertain to structures which are primarily buildings and not bridges and tunnels and things of that nature.
Right. So follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Senator?
Thank you. Madam Chair, I would ask the patron then that, so in this case, as we're reading the bill right now, basically, they're still going to have to be evaluated for fire safety. That's not going to go away. It's more or less either shifting responsibility to either the local folks in this case, or there's going to be someone on site who they're going to have to answer to. And so if I'm reading this correctly, Madam Chair, I assume it's the patron's intent that we're not trying to skirt safety laws or anything. It's that it's more or less eliminating a redundancy.
Not at all.
Delegate Austin.
Not at all, Senator. You're correct.
Thank you. Other questions? Senator Hashmi.
Thank you. The questions from Senator Rome answered my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you, Delegate Austin, do you have anyone here with you who is supporting the bill?
No, ma'am, I do not.
All right. Is there anybody in support? Is there anybody in opposition?
Move to report, Madam Chair.
Second.
All righty. We have a motion and a second. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Your bill reports 15-0. Thank you, Delegate Austin.
Thank you,
Good to
Madam
see
Chair,
you.
members of the committee. Thank you.
Next on our list is Delegate Sickles. HB 1163, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All righty. Why don't you tell us about your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. 1163 is brought on behalf of the Disability Law Center. Existing code language subjects Virginians to unnecessary medical reviews without the individual in question putting road safety into question. The bill clarifies that the basis for medical reviews should be based on an impairment that has an identifiable, articulable nexus to the individual's ability to safely operate a motor vehicle. That's what the bill does. It's pretty simple there. I think there may be someone here to speak to it from the Disability Law Center.
All righty. If Senator Rome has a question. Senator Rome, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. So I actually like where this is going for sure. I was wondering if you would be able to address. So I had a constituent who's since moved out of the district. She's actually been in front of the General Assembly before. She was missing her dominant right arm from just above the elbow. And at the same time, she had been able to demonstrate that she could be able to drive just fine, and especially if she were to get like a Bionic 3, prosthetic or whatever. But she was having significant difficulty getting that authorization in the first place to be able to do that. Would this bill, by simply changing that physical disability to impairment, be able to address, say, people in the limb loss community here who are otherwise capable of safely operating a motor vehicle, as long as they're able to demonstrate that?
Yeah, I mean, this bill would not.
Delegate Sickles.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Apologize for the improvement. The bill would not necessarily fix that. It would give the individual an opportunity to show that the impairment is not something that would have to be reviewed annually or on a certain time frame, in my understanding. And so they would have an opportunity to prove they can operate the vehicle without just a carte blanche prohibition from it. But I don't think it's a particular solution for any one person, but we have an expert here that might be able to further answer that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Sickles. If you would bring your witness forward.
Madam Chair, it's John Smead with the Disability Law Center of Virginia. We support the bill. We thank the ALT for bringing it. I can't say that this this is a pretty minor language change in this bill, and the idea is to change the language so that the statute is clear that the basis for a medical review, the basis for heightened scrutiny for an individual really ought to be an impairment that's specifically related to an individual's ability to operate a motor vehicle. I don't think that this language change is necessarily going to iron out every issue in the system, but we think it's a first step in the right direction to clarifying that an individual who has a disability shouldn't be subjected to medical review solely because they have a disability, but only if there's an impairment which has a clear nexus to that individual's ability to safely operate a motor vehicle.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there other members of the audience in support of the bill? Are there audience members who are in opposition to the bill?
Move to report, Madam Chair.
All righty, we have a motion and a second. If the clerk would call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Delegate Sickles, your bill reports unanimously. Thank you for your bringing it. Delegate Krazak, you still here? And then Delegate Sewell, I don't see her, but
Thank you, Madam Chair.
she was here. If you'd like to tell us about your bill.
HB 201, it just reinstates the longstanding policy of appointing the elected members of the House of Delegates to the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, the MVTA, the MVTC, and the Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission. And right now, that's how it used to be, and then a few years ago, that changed, and what we're trying to do is get it back to. So you already have, the senators are appointed, it's just that the House members are not.
Thank you for bringing this bill. I currently am the only member of the General Assembly who sits on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, and non-elected members are on it who were appointed by the former speaker. I appreciate you bringing this bill. I'm co-patroning it. Are there any questions or comments from the members? Senator Rome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking to the bill.
Please.
So, Madam Chair, I had the joy of serving with you on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority along with Delegate Watts for a period of 2 years. And what happened is in the preceding 2 years, a former member of the House of Delegates who had no longer been in office was appointed to one of the 2 House spots for the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, despite no longer being an elected member. What has since transpired is that the House of Delegates right now has no representation, and I mean no representation on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority entirely because of an action taken by a prior speaker. Now, when I say that part, someone say, well, what's the issue? Because the speaker still made appointments, right? The speaker made appointments for people who are not in the House. And so here's where that parlays for the public here. When the chair of this committee, in her role on the NVTA, is able to attend NVTA meetings, be a voting member there, and have direct dialogue with my constituent, who happens to be the executive director CEO of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, she's able to then bring the ideas back to the Senate. And when we have information or we have policy issues that come up in the Senate that deal with the MVTA, she can speak from a place of authority about that. The House of Delegates does not have anyone in that capacity right now, and the reason for that is entirely politics, is entirely partisan. Because in this case, what had happened is that there had been a member who lived in Loudoun County and therefore was appointed by the speaker to be on the MVTA. But then once he moved, he was no longer a member of Planning District 8. Therefore, they had to find someone else. I understood when I was taken off of the MVTA as someone representing a purple district why. I got it. So goes majorities. But there was no reason to take Delegate Watts off of there as a former VDOT secretary, especially, because the NVTA needs direct representation among delegate members to the House of Delegates. Otherwise, we have a problem where one chamber is disproportionately represented compared to the other. In this case, 1-0. You can't have 0, and that's why we need to have a bill like this, regardless of what happens 20, 50, 40, 100 years from now. If the politics of Northern Virginia change whatever else it is, just like it's changed in my lifetime, just like it's changed twice in the patron's lifetime, it is really, really, really important that both chambers are represented on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, thank you, Senator.
Delegate Krazak.
That's what it does. It ensures that members of the House of Delegates have a seat at the table regarding transportation matters in our region. And to make it really clear, this is the only regional transportation authority in the whole Commonwealth, these 3, that have this anomaly. So this would get us back the way it used to be and the way it should be.
I appreciate it. Senator Suderline, you had a comment or question? You have the floor.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I appreciate hearing Senator Rome say that there shouldn't be disproportionate representation, even though this bill will continue to allow disproportionate representation, because unfortunately, looking at some of my Northern Virginia colleagues, there will only be 1 of you on here rather than 2, which would be the appropriate number if that's how many delegates there are. I'm not going to hold up the bill but I think you all ought to.
Thank you, Delegate Suderline. I appreciate your I appreciate your passion for equal representation. I certainly appreciate. Senator Dusteff, did you want to say anything?
Madam Chair, I thought that may have been a friendly amendment, so.
I think we should probably just focus on the posture that it's in. Hearing no other questions, I would call for a motion.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. If we could call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Delegate Krizak, your bill reports unanimously. Thank you so much. Delegate Sewell, it is your turn. And you have SB 1526?
Yes.
All righty, tell us about your bill.
House Bill 1526 seeks to increase the current weight limit on a single axle electric utility truck from 20,000 pounds to 24,000 pounds. So just picture this: during a power outage, with the current weight limits, electric co-ops only have the ability to load 2 poles and the associated equipment needed to install those poles because of the weight of the poles. And that means that a job that requires 4 poles requires 2 trucks with crews just to transport those poles. And if this bill passes, well, let's correct that. When this bill passes, electric co-ops can load 3 or 4 poles into a truck with the same one set of equipment and 1 crew to accomplish a job significantly quicker and therefore restore power in a far shorter span of time. And this frees up that other truck and crew to go out and restore power elsewhere with 3 or 4 poles on their own, allowing power to be restored, as I noted. So just to reiterate, currently the limit on a utility truck, single axle, is 20,000 pounds. Electric utilities are in danger of soon exceeding the current legal truck weight limits due to the increase in pole heights and weights, equipment, and et cetera. And that this is essentially needed to strengthen and maintain the grid. And this forces utility trucks to make multiple trips to stay within the weight limits. And as demand on electric infrastructure continues to grow, including broadband deployment and vehicle electrification, more and more new poles and transformers will need to be installed. And these newer poles and transformers are larger and way more than the older models. And I'm happy to go on. I don't know how interested you guys are in learning about 5% stickers. Happy to go on if you want me to.
Thank you, Delegate Sewell. So I have Delegate Rome, and then I think Senator Marsden wanted to speak. And so, did I call you I'm sorry. Senator Rome here, my wonderful colleague.
It's so
you have the floor.
Good to be back in the House with my
You're
colleague
welcome
from Prince
anytime.
William. All right, Madam Chair, question for the patron.
Senator Rome.
So, Madam Chair, so when I was a reporter, I used to do stories about structurally deficient bridges and why those numbers were up there in the first place. And so basically the issue I have is that it's not so much that the trucks that are being described in here are going to cause the collapse of the bridge in that moment, but the weight restriction is there, basically to keep that off, because what ends up happening is the bridges become more damaged. As the truck goes over, sometimes you'll even, if you were to go underneath, you'll see the deck literally bounce like this. You'll see a screw or paint chip or something that falls off, or you'll see a lot of rust that'll kind of start flaking. Can the delegate just basically explain how under this bill, we're not going to have a prolonged issue on, say, structurally deficient bridges like that, where if these utility trucks are going to be there, it would be for a very brief amount of time and not enough to do permanent or cause extensive damage?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Delegate Sewell.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I would respond to the senator by just letting it be known that these trucks actually do not cross weighted restricted bridges, nor do they travel on our interstate. So I hope that relieves the concern.
Thank you, Delegate Sewell. Senator Marsden, I believe, has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, actually the question's for you. Did I just hear the magic word broadband, and that this would assist us in getting broadband out quicker, either by utility companies or ISPs?
Senator Marsden, I believe you did. I think that we are opening up a whole new world.
With that, if it's the appropriate time, I move the bill report.
All righty, and I do know that Senator Hashmi had a question or a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for the patron.
Senator Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you were working on the bill and talking to various stakeholders, did anybody question or seek to address the kind of damage that happens to our roads and highways with this increase of weight? I know that, I'm reading some statistics here that just an increase from 18,000 pounds to 20,000 pounds causes 50% more damage to the pavement. And I had been reading some concerns over the last several months about what these large trucks are doing, or the potential damage that they can have on our highways and roads. So I was wondering what kind of conversations you might have had, Delegate Sewell.
Delegate Sewell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would respond to the senator that we worked very closely with VDOT on the language, and we added some additional tweaks just to make sure that they were comfortable. There has been no express opposition to this bill, recognizing that these utility trucks are only utilized in a limited capacity, and therefore there were no concerns. The primary concern is always around our interstates and highways, as well as the bridges, as the previous senator already noted. So we have not received an express concern.
Delegate Sewell, I know that. I mean, one of the things, I'm the chair of the Broadband Advisory Council, and as we are deploying broadband all across the Commonwealth to close the digital divide, we are learning about all kinds of things that have been challenges, and this is just another piece of that puzzle. Thank you for bringing this forward as we address each and every little aspect of getting it deployed. I just appreciate that everybody's been coming together. So I believe that my colleague, Senator Marsden, would like to make a motion.
I move to report. Second.
All righty, we have a motion and a second. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Delegate Sewell, you have your bill reports, 15-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
All righty, if there is no other business, and I believe there is none, then the committee will rise.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.